Are you ready to break free from the 9-to-5 grind and turn your expertise into a thriving coaching business? Well, in this episode of Using AI at Work, we sit down with Ryan Musselman, a former Google executive who took the leap into entrepreneurship and never looked back. Ryan shares his journey of leveraging AI and no-code tools to build a $50,000 a month coaching business, all while helping other coaches monetize their knowledge and create the lifestyle they desire. Get ready to be inspired and discover the steps you can take to fire yourself from your own business or role using AI. Let's get started. Welcome to Using AI at Work. I'm your host, Chris Daigle. Each week, we'll be learning how today's business owners, entrepreneurs, and ambitious professionals are getting more done with smart use of tomorrow's tech. Let's get started. Hi, and today's guest, we've got Ryan Musselman, and I want to share with everybody, this is what happens when you reach out to individuals who are doing cool stuff. You reach out to them cold, not to sell them anything, but just to say, hey, I'm real interested in what you're doing. I'd love to talk more. That's how Ryan and I got connected on LinkedIn and what ultimately led us to this podcast interview today. So Ryan, welcome. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you've got going on in Dallas?
Yeah, I'm glad you reached out, man. It's going to be a good conversation.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I've really leaned into the coaching solopreneur vibe that seems to be taking over the corporate world. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, effectively, you've got really good executives who have got amazing track records. Maybe they've sold companies, maybe they've moved into just different organizations, managed large teams, but many of them are choosing not to step higher into the career ladder. They're choosing to go into their own business, and not just to build or raise capital or scale some monstrous machine, but really to have a lifestyle business that controls their time and allows them to do the work that they love. So I stepped into that route after a successful career working at Google, building content engines, content programs, content networks, selling content partnerships. Kind of catch my drift here. I leaned into the content angle.
Yeah.
Now I help coaches really get their coaching program off the ground to their first $15K a month, or if they're already making money, add an additional $15K plus per month. So I've stepped into that online entrepreneur world and have been enjoying it ever since.
You know, I think that some portion, if not a big portion of this audience fits into exactly that individual that you're talking about that has some skills, but they don't understand that there's they wouldn't even know where to start to get the freedom that comes with coaching or entrepreneurship and that sort of thing. So I think I'd like to actually start there for those people who are listening. If they're listening to this to learn these skills and they have domain expertise from their industry, that sounds like a good match for going out on your own. What would you advise to somebody who is in that position and maybe thinking about that?
Yeah, really simple. What's one thing you can teach to one person in 1 hour? And if you can answer that question, you can develop a multi-six-figure business from that seed of an idea. And the answer is usually going to be relevant to, well, what have I been doing my entire career? Whether you're newer in your career or you're more advanced in your career. And that's what I really like about coaching is that everyone's going to pay for knowledge. Even with the rise of AI, what are you using AI for, right? To get something done faster, to acquire knowledge quicker. There's many different use cases. Coaching will always be an important long-term use case for individuals who need some form of advancement in any area or any niche. And so again, the 1 hour test is usually the first place we start because it leads to the easiest answer. It's an easy question. It's a very tangible question to understand, right? If you and I sat down over a beer and I said, Chris, teach me one thing in 1 hour, and you'd probably be off to the races. And before you know it, we'd be in one of the best conversations we've ever had.
Yeah, that's right. And I know people love talking about themselves anyway. So that always makes for a good conversation. The people that are coming to you, what's kind of like, where are they in their career? What's their life situation that catalyzes them to explore wanting to be a coach on their expertise?
Yeah. In some areas, they're disenfranchised by that traditional 9-to-5, even if they've had great experiences there, which is similar to me. So I didn't have a bad 9-to-5. I was never looking to escape, except for when I first got out of college and stepped into my first 4-year kind of professional role post-degree. And that's usually because you don't start off after college doing what it is that you love. You're in, well,
Yeah.
in my generation would call that kind of paying your dues of sorts. But that's the mode I was in. And as I progressed further and got down the digital content route and started to step into roles that I loved, for me, I had a great 9 to 5 career. So others are either in love with it or not in love with it. It doesn't necessarily matter. They care more about building and leaning into something that they can own for themselves, that lifestyle business that does allow them to have more time doing what they want to do, working from home. And I know that's like pretty much what many people can say are the lures of that. But those who are stepping into this just are sick of listening to the echo chamber advice. You hear many different things out there, right? Like it's a long game. It's, you got to put in the
Yeah.
work. You got to post every day on social media. That's just generalized encouragement. It's not a roadmap. And so the
Yeah.
people who are coming to me have no roadmap. And I like to roadmap them with a 90-day plan that has tangible checkpoints. The more you can feel it and touch it, taste it,
Yeah.
see it, smell it, the more you know you're on the right track. It should feel like progress. So those are the individuals I dominantly work with.
90 days is a fast transition.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I didn't know when I first started, I didn't know what the first day looked like.
Yeah,
And that
sure.
was in 2022. I was just posting on LinkedIn to deeply connect with my audience. I wasn't even trying to have an offer. I wasn't looking to leave. And then
Yeah.
all the LinkedIn hype 6 months later, I said, okay, let me just try this and see what this is. So my friend had this ghostwriting offer. I can write content. I like to write. So my friend was ghostwriting. And if no one's ever heard of ghostwriting in the audience, it's basically you just writing content for someone else, but they're posting it on their account. So it looks like they wrote it, but really someone else wrote it for them. It's
Yeah.
for busy executives who usually don't have the time on their own hands to build their own personal brand. So I was doing that for other coaches, career coaches dominantly. And then I started to close more deals as I just put the
Yeah.
offer out there, floating it out there. No silver tongue sales tactics or any type of big plan. I just serviced it out there. And that really got me addicted to say, okay, let me just keep going down this rabbit hole, optimize this offer, see where I want to go. Now I don't ghostwrite anymore. I'm just teaching people how to build their online specific coaching business. And I only work with coaches in that regard because I really believe in monetizing your knowledge. And I believe
Yeah.
it's important to, if you can do that, man, lean into that and run with it because it's so gratifying to build and see your knowledge make other people
Yes.
grow and advance.
I've had that happen. I think accidentally over the course of my career, I've advised a few thousand entrepreneurs, and it's
Mm,
always fantastic when you're at like a industry event and somebody says, "Hey," and you're kind of like, "Oh yeah, I remember you," but you don't. And they're like, "That one thing that you told me when we were on the phone, that made me go from here to here. I took this direction, and now like I've blown up. Things are great." And it's I can tell you, man, the reward that comes from that side of coaching is uh, certainly the money's fantastic, but the money alone wouldn't be as fulfilling as knowing that you're making money by impacting other people and letting them, because they're going to pay it forward and they're going to end up transforming as a coach other people's lives, other people's careers. So I think it's fantastic. Um,
definitely.
Obviously, for you, content creation was kind of, you say you like writing. It got you out there. It got you it got you noticed in the social platforms. Is that a recommended path for somebody that is interested in taking that leap?
Definitely. It's a component you can't ignore. And that's part of the reason why I went down the AI route a little bit with it, although it wasn't my first choice because ChatGPT didn't have its
Yeah.
moment like it's having now. But you're going to need to be able to promote who you are, who you help, how you help them. And you having that voice online is important. It doesn't mean it's the only thing you do. And it also doesn't mean you become a content creator who runs a business. You become a business owner who creates content. That's an important
Good
distinction.
distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand that distinction when you start off, you'll get attracted and lured into the hype of starting something new, like content creation on a platform like LinkedIn, which is right now the easiest platform to really grow an audience. But then you'll be optimizing for the algorithm and engagement and not optimizing with your offer leading the way. And so people often will get caught up in how many new followers can I get or how much post
Yep.
reach can I get instead of how many offers can I make in a day. That's an important distinction worth unpacking too.
So, and I don't know if this is a universal experience for uh, people like me who would be a great candidate for the coaching, having a coaching business, which I've had in the past. But for me, content creation, it seemed like a lot of work. It didn't come naturally or easily to me. And it seemed like it was a long play. Am I right or am I wrong?
Oh, I think you're spot on. I think most people's experience is I don't know how to write. And they're used to high school and college when you're writing an MLA style format, right? We're taught to write in a very functional, scholarly type level. When on
Sure.
social media, that's just not how it works. You actually go through this period of unlearning how to write in school
Interesting.
and a period of learning how to write on social media and for an audience. And they're so different. So different. It's almost like the less formal you get, the more effective you are. And in school, if we would have learned buyer psychology, why
Yeah.
people buy, what makes someone move from point A to point B, that would have been far more valuable than us spending time learning MLA style and formatting and citing sources. And I'm not saying that to discredit teachers or that
Sure.
scholarly academic process, but that is not why I'm able to sell. When I don't do that, I can sell. And I think it's the same for all of those who are building that online business. It's just a different skill set.
It's a great tip for anybody who's making an attempt at being a content creator.
Yeah,
Don't go scholarly with it. People won't read
right.
it. Um, so obviously, there's this challenge that I have with writing. So AI has certainly been an effective tool to allow me to increase my output with a lot less effort, right? However, synthetic output, synthetic content isn't my intention. My intention is to still leverage the tools, but introduce authenticity or my personality or style. And it's not an easy thing to do with Chat GPT or Claude or anything like that. You there's a process there. What would you advise if somebody did want to use AI to support that to make it less daunting for them? Are there any tips or tricks to make sure that that content isn't just some GPT BS?
Yeah. Boy, it's such a nuanced question because there's so much that someone must understand before they can even start on doing that. So I'll give you the
Yeah,
oversimplified answer. One, if you're using Chat GPT, we'll focus there since that's really in the spotlight these days. I first first recommend, and I don't have an affiliate with them, get off of GPT 3.5 and just pay for that $20 a month prescription at GPT 4.
agreed.
There's a
Yeah,
couple of reasons why. Number one, it's just dramatically different in terms of getting an answer. If you try to get GPT 3.5 to write something for you, it's pretty much going to have emojis. It's going to say stuff like skyrocketing and unlocking and leveling up and discovering and all the fancy,
yeah,
smancy marketing lingo that surprisingly is still very commonly used in the corporate world by people who are not using AI and unfortunately by marketing
yeah.
professionals too. So get GPT 4.0 and then when you're creating content, one of the things that I found most helpful, again, this is an oversimplification, is if I want Chat GPT to write something that sounds like me, sentence structure, words, tone, and so on, I have to feed it examples of where I've made content first and then ask it to produce that content for me. And so it's the power in the prompting. And that's going to determine the efficacy of the output you get from chat. The more it's trained, I mean, GPT stands for generative pre trained transformer. Said in layman's terms, train it better, get better results. So the more you
Yep.
train it to write like you, the better it will.
So I know that before we got on this, you were pretty proud about the way that you were leveraging generative AI technology in your content production cycle and distribution cycle. Uh, I think it would be helpful for individuals who, because if I was listening to this and I didn't know much about AI, but I was intrigued by the idea of monetizing, my career, what I've been doing, but doing it for myself as an advisor or a coach or a domain expert, I'd be really interested in, like, how can I get there faster, right? Obviously, AI can support that. Um, do you mind kind of walking us through how you're leveraging some of the tools to help you with content creation and distribution?
Sure. My favorite is on GPT-4 again, GPTs. Now, for
Yeah,
most of your audience, I'm sure they're well versed in this, but in case there's anyone new,
maybe not.
the GPT is really just think of like a little mini app on the platform. So Apple, you have iTunes and you have the Apple kind of app directory and you're downloading different apps. Well, think of GPTs as you creating little mini content creation apps within ChatGPT. For example, I have a GPT that writes all of my sales content for me. I have another GPT that rewrites popular social media posts for me. I've got another
Hmm.
GPT that can take any post on the internet and turn it into a content template, meaning something that I can get from that output and fill in the blank for a piece of content down the road. Could be an email or social media post. So each of these little GPTs, these little apps, serve a different purpose with different instructions, all custom tailored to how I write and the audience I serve. And I love
Beautiful.
that because now it makes prompting a bit old school in a sense. I made this joke earlier this year. I said, "Oh, prompting Chat GPT is so 2023." And now 2024 has come along and the GPT store is open and you can
Yeah.
make these GPTs and add all the prompting on the back end, then get really savvy with those little conversation starters, those kind of 4 blocks you can put up in
Yep.
GPT and get it to do stuff faster. And now I've got it to a point where my process for creating content is I'm just going to click a button and I'm going to get the output
Wow.
that I want from the attachments on the back end and the prompts that sync with them and the templates that are there. And then I'll go through and I'll edit and make sure it sounds like me and fix anything I didn't like and then ship it. So I know that was a
Very
bit
cool.
of a big one there, but we can unpack that however you'd like.
Yeah, I actually would. So for those who haven't aren't, let's say they're going to go on to Chat GPT today and they're going to look for the GPT store and they're going to say, "Hey, I'm going to try what Ryan was suggesting." Um, what was the learning curve for you in creating GPTs that you can get this kind of output from?
Yeah. I'm going to back into that with just a quick story. I told you that I was
Yep.
ghostwriting at the beginning of the call, and I didn't like it very much. I like creating my own content. I don't like to create it for others because the brain switch that you have to do is
Yeah.
so big. And so I said to myself, okay, I've just left my job and stepped into my own business. And I don't even like the business that I'm building. I should have just stayed
Yeah.
at my other job
Yeah.
and stayed in the 9 to 5. So I said, all right, how can I fire myself from my own business using AI? And it set me on this journey for about a year of learning how to prompt and how to write content, mainly instructions into ChatGPT to give me what I needed. And so that route is really where I started taking a bunch of AI classes and other courses to really learn, okay, what is it that I need to do in order to give Chat GPT instructions that give me the exact output that I need. But I had
Yeah.
to learn how to prompt properly. And so here's a few tips for those of you who are out there doing that. Show Chat
Great. Yeah.
GPT what looks really good and show Chat GPT what looks really bad. So I have this hook generator that writes the first line of your social media post.
Nice.
And I show chat, hey, this is a bad hook. And I give it 5 examples. This is a bad hook, and it's a one example. This is a bad hook, number 2. This is a second example. And I do that all the way to 5. And then I show chat, this is a good hook and a good example, and a good hook and a good example. Now give me 10 of these. But I'm just clicking a
Mhm.
button because of the pre-written
Yeah,
instructions on the back end. So the learning curve there for you is start with contrast. Show the bad, show the good, ask for the
like it.
good. And then you can give other examples along the way, and that'll help you craft a better GPT, or at the very least, a better prompt so you can get the type of content you need.
So I think that was very insightful for those listening. The learning curve is what it is, but once the learning curve has been completed, the iteration ability with these GPTs is you can do one over lunch that you can end up using for the rest of your, the life of your business. It's pretty incredible stuff. So I'm glad that you shared that. Now, one of the things that people that aren't using it, they might think, oh, I can get this GPT and then I can press a button and I can copy and paste. But it sounds like what you're doing is you're still human in the loop. It's getting you 95% there, but there's still some Ryan getting in there and actually I do it this way and I do it that way. So you're able to leverage the tools to get the heavy lifting of the content, but there's still the authenticity because you're not just copying and pasting, you're still giving it that Musselman touch.
Yeah, it's a great thing, and I really want to clarify this for a second. The way the GPTs are written, I actually could just copy and paste because it's AI learning how to
Yep.
write like Ryan and therefore giving me an
Yep.
output that sounds like Ryan. So I technically could copy and paste that. But the whether for good or bad, perfectionist side of me and the content side will make me want to reword certain things. And so I think it's important to do that because you may get an output that you just don't like. AI has reached a certain point where it can get a lot of the job done. I still don't think it can get all
Yeah.
of the job done. And there will be a future where it does get all of the job done, I think, especially in content marketing. But it's still nice to go through and enjoy that creative process. Now, most of my time is not writing from a blank page, it's writing from a
Yes.
prepped piece of content. This means I can get
Much
out of the
easier.
minutia and more into that
Yes.
strategic zone. And I can zoom out a little bit. I can fly above what's happening the chessboard and move things around in different ways and therefore make more progress in the advancement of my business. And that's what I really like about it.
I think that was probably one of the reasons that it was hard, quote unquote, for me to create content was the blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
What do I say? Where do I start? I mean, I think I got stuff people would be interested in, but how do I put it into words? And having that somebody that can say, here, work with this, right? GPT can say, here, take this and go make it better. So much easier. So let's talk about what that looks like for somebody who is like, I'd still rather do it the old way. I'd still rather beat up the keyboard a little bit. What's the time allocation for old way versus new way for you at least? What was that? What did that look like?
Yeah. I went from a blank page and spending a lot of time creating content every week to really using the engine to prep the ideas for me. Now, I still write most of my content versus use AI because the program that I built is for the person that doesn't like to write and doesn't want to be
Got it.
creative in that particular sector of their business. They want to be creative in the sales or operations or finance side of it. So I built the engine for them need that. But on my end, the amount of time that I'm seeing it save for others, I got a career coach who just hit 20K a month. He just announced it. He's really excited about it. But he called me
Yeah, I
the day
bet.
before and said, I just want to let you know you're a big part of that process because what he did with the engine was go from hours of writing his own content and try to figure out, well, how am I going to persuade someone to buy to using a content engine that writes his sales content that's drawing from me, but putting it in its own words. And so that helped him generate the right lead acquisition he needed to make the right offers and ultimately
Yes.
close the right amount of deals. So that freed up his time to really zoom out of his business, worry less about content creation and more on serving new and existing clients.
So this is cool for everybody listening. We happen to be talking about content creation, but
Yeah.
the real win here is that by leveraging the tools for whatever it is, in this case content creation, it's now freed up time for you to do things that are more in your zone of expertise or more like higher leverage immediately for your business. But also there were maybe you're a business person, you're like, I'd love to create content. I don't have the time to do it. Now using tools like this, there's no excuse about time is no longer the reason that you don't do it, right? Like
Right.
it's gone from an hour of sitting or 2 hours of sitting working on this thing to being able to probably knock something out in 10, 15 minutes. That's, hey, pretty good. It's a big
Yeah.
win.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see it like when the outputs are there. It's like, oh my gosh, that like you see just the words forming on the page. I think the psychological fact of watching chat put this post
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
makes you think, oh man,
Yeah.
if I could just do that better and better and better, amazing. But I do want to get it to a
Yeah.
point. While I may not use it as heavily now, because I didn't design it for people like me, I designed it for people who are
Yeah.
not like me. But the next version of that is designing it for more creative driven people like myself so that I can then spend more time building this. I love sales, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm a weird person who's in this creative world and loves to write and figure out that stuff, but I really like the buyer psychology of it. And I always think to my own self, what made me buy this today? If I bought into a mastermind, let's say it's 10 grand plus,
Sure.
what what brought me to that decision where I said this is a no-brainer and made me pull out my credit card and not only that, be excited about it. Rather than having
Yeah.
buyer's remorse, it's like I spent this 10 grand and I couldn't be more thrilled to have spent it. I'm no longer thinking about this. I'm only thinking about how do I use this program and go beyond. And so AI then can help bring that about for us because if we know we're going to lean into a program and it's going to require us time to apply and learn and study and be shaped, and if we have AI that can handle all this other stuff over here, well, now
Great
we
point.
can lean in with a little bit more freedom in our step
Sure.
to learn, apply, grow, iterate. So I think that's going to be a
Creating more
key component
time.
for many of us in using AI.
So I want to get back to this, the client that you serve,
Mm,
the coaches who one topic for 1 hour. I
yeah.
like that concept a lot. So for those individuals, do you find is there a consensus on coaches tend to like to create content, tend to not like create content, or is it all over the board?
It's usually over the board, but leans heavily into I don't want to spend time on content. The first career coach I ever closed, this is insightful actually, is a storyteller, but he hates writing. He wants to
Mm,
tell stories, or said a different way, he
yeah,
wants to teach career professionals, coach career professionals on how to better communicate their value heading into interviews and throughout their career. But his mechanism for teaching them that is more one-to-one or group coaching. He does not like to write his content. And so he was running into this big problem. He's lives in Florida, likes to go fishing on Saturdays. He'd go fishing on Saturdays, but his mind would be stuck on the coming
yeah,
Monday. What do I post? That's where his mind always went. So when he hired me to ghostwrite for him, it was to solve that with the intention that it would also drive inbound leads. So that's part of where these coaches are coming from is they may be all over the board. Some of them might like the creative process, but even if they like the creative process, they don't like the time that it takes to execute that creative process. And AI
that
relieves
makes a
that.
lot of sense. Yeah, yeah. So for those of you who are listening, will you explain kind of what a career coach does?
Sure. A career coach is going to likely help you with a couple of areas. At its most basic form, they're going to help you interview better. So you may be an individual who's like, I feel like I'm just statically going through my day. I need a new job. I keep getting to the final round of interviews and I get no call back. A career coach, in one aspect, can help you communicate your value better, just like the career coach that I mentioned. Other career coaches may focus on a specific industry. So I worked with a separate group
Okay.
of coaches who helped people in tech, specifically mid level to executive level, who are saying, I want to work at a large company, Apple, Google, and so on, in a role that is meaningful to me. So they would hyper focus on a specific industry. Other career coaches will help you with your resume. They'll help you interview better. They'll help you get career clarity. They may focus on different niches, different states of your career. So all of them are just trying to help you advance your career in one way, shape, or form. But usually the blockers there are I can't seem to find roles that I like. I can't seem to connect with other people in and around the hiring manager's decision circle. I can't seem to get past this interview. My resume sucks. So they're helping through the plethora of career challenges.
I could see the career coach role being aided by GPT for ideation and strategy in a big way.
Oh,
So
yeah.
very cool. So when you're talking to your clients and AI is coming up, on a scale of 1 to 10, one being like, what is AI? 10 being Sam Altman or whatever. Where do you find that most of your prospects, where are they falling?
Very entry level, meaning they've
Okay.
dabbled, they've played, and they've concluded this just doesn't sound like me. And that all comes
Mhm.
down to the prompting. And so when we work together, then they're getting this. It's a pretty long and complex prompt, but it's very organized for chat to follow a systematic set of instructions in order to get a specific output. And so we're just kind of enabling the plug and play nature of that. Because what I
Yes.
didn't want to happen was, okay, you're joining this program. I'm going to teach you AI and then you're going to use AI. I think that's the wrong way. I wanted you to come
Okay.
in and you're just going to plug it into a wall, right? And then start using the system. So very plug and play. Everything's been done for you. You just need to update a few things on the back end, namely your content and the audience you're speaking to. And that can be done in seconds rather than minutes or listening to a, you know, 10-hour course.
So they're able to leverage, are they able to leverage the GPTs that you've built? They're just customized for them, or how are you
Yeah,
walk me through some geeky stuff here.
sure. Yeah. So the geeky side of it is I built the prompts agnostically, minus a few specific rule sets that a coach would come in and customize. And those rule sets really lean into traits of their audience, traits of their offer, and traits of the call to action to that offer. And so they're just going in and updating a few bullet points, and then it's ready to go.
Nice.
So you can get the system and within an hour be producing content. And and that hour of you producing
Wow.
content really probably means all your content for the month.
Wow.
Yeah,
So I guess the alternative would be trying to teach somebody how to do this, which is exactly what you said, the wrong way, rather than plug it into the wall, teach you AI and then say, okay, go figure it out. Go figure out how to make this
yeah.
thing sound like you when you write. That's not the way to go.
No, it's really
Yeah.
not. And even the content, the outputs that you're getting from the GPTs is just extracting templates that I've already used to sell my business
Yes.
and my service. So I'm taking those templates, plugging them into the GPT. Then the coach is
Yes.
coming in and updating their writing style and who they serve. That way, the output that chat gives is put into this template, yet for their audience with their offer and their writing structure. So now we've
Beautiful.
got a plug and play sandbox. It's the Legos versus what's the really advanced kind of Lego set that people play with, Lego Technics, right? Where it's like this is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
advanced
Yeah.
Legos, and then there's the simple person Legos. And I'm a simple Lego person. So
Me too. So this is a interesting because for those of you listening, it's not about, well, I'm not a coach. I'm not going to do content. It's not about that. It's more about finding the solution. So in this case, if I was a coach or I was interested in becoming a coach and pursuing that, I would be I got two options: go figure it out myself, right? If I want to use the tools, or spend that same amount of time sourcing a solution that does not require me to be involved. So in this case, it's content creation tailored for the audience of a thought leader or a coach. However, whatever your career is, if you're curious, how can I use AI in my industry or my role? I really like Ryan's advice here, and it's not go learn AI. Maybe go find out, has somebody already built some tools that are AI powered that as a logistics manager, as a HR professional, that I can go ahead and plug in rather than me have to go and spend the hours and hours that Ryan's done on his GPT prowess. He's now able to I would be able to just go and say, oh, in an hour I can have content. That that solution, please. So I don't want everybody to think that you've got to go out and learn AI. You have to learn how to use the tools, right? How to apply the tools. And it's not even a specific tool, it's just about the application of a tool to a certain process or workflow. So as your audience matures in their usage of AI, what are your plans for continuing to be that person who leads them on that journey of AI education and literacy?
Yeah, it's a great question. As I really progress through this, what I found is it's not so much that people only need help with the content side of it. It's that they, if you're a coach, need help with your entire business model. Because most of us, and this was true of me, I come from a sales background, more in the context of strategic partnerships, corporate partnerships, content partnerships, but it required a sales component every time, a deep sales
Yeah.
component. And it was always easy for me to build material, pitch material, strategic content campaigns, marketing campaigns from a pre existing framework. That company was established,
Yep.
it had these deliverables, these resources, and so on. But when you step out of the corporate world and create an offer with no existing framework other than the knowledge you have in your career, it's different to craft that offer. It's different to think about it in
Yeah.
that business model. It almost feels like you're restarting from scratch. And you
Yeah.
feel like that person who's fresh out of college, wide eyed and mystified, trying to figure out what's step one, right? Where's the water cooler or whatever you want to describe it, whatever analogy makes the most sense. And so I'm now taking the content engine and saying, this isn't the whole pie. This will be one of three. And that way, when I meet with clients now, step one is let's get clear on your offer. And then let's validate that offer by getting three customers who will buy it, say that they're interested. Now you're operating from a place of clarity and your offer is informing your content. And this makes programming
Yes.
GPTs different. So now the
Yes.
GPTs can write content because you have clarity on your offer and who you serve. And so if GPTs are part two and clear on your offer is part one, then part three is how do you make that business long term and sustainable? And so what we're trying to teach people to do now is, hey, if we're adding an extra 15K per month through your coaching program, monetizing your knowledge, how do you do that consistently so you have line of sight to 50K per month and 100K per month and so on? And that's where it comes in building rich client experiences where it's an always on mode. They're always learning, they're always getting value. And really, I'm teaching my clients so that they don't need me anymore, so they can effectively teach their clients so they don't need them anymore.
Yes.
Right. And if they do need
Yes.
them, then it's more for different seasons throughout their entrepreneurial journey where they're coming on in short bursts, maybe for extra guidance or extra hands and so on. And I think that's the evolving model I'm starting to see, the emerging model that is going to make a lot of sense for up and coming coaches to embrace.
So, and another thing I want to bring up is that even though we're talking about, Ryan's a subject matter expert in the coaching space. If you're a solopreneur selling whatever, or an entrepreneur who's got their own business that is maybe you've got a brick and mortar or whatever, all of these same principles apply. It's the E Myth revisited. It is you having to wear a lot of hats in your business. And if you try to do it without the assistance of a VA or somebody in your office or the AI models, then you're doing it the hard way because being an entrepreneur, especially a solopreneur, trying to do all of it is an exciting journey. But ChatGPT or whatever your models are, or even the AI assisted tools that you might be using, or a combination, a stack of tools like what Ryan's talking about here, it please don't do it the hard way. It's like from coming from me and from Ryan both. Please don't do it the hard way. Use the technology. Use the shortcuts, the compressed result cycle that's possible with these tools. So Ryan, I think that there are people that are listening to this that maybe they've thought about it, or even if they haven't thought about uh, going out on their own, right? Because they didn't know what they could do. They didn't realize that they could monetize the skill set that they've got for a broader application in other people's businesses. How can they plug into what you're doing or what you're teaching? The paradigm of that.
Yeah, I think really just for those who are curious and want to learn more, send me a message on LinkedIn. I can point you in the right direction.
Nice.
And it's really that easy. I think the world is too nuanced to. There's so many different resources, right? Most of the ones that I trust with AI are paid resources. So there's this Right with AI newsletter that I subscribe to. It's a paid newsletter, but the people behind it have proven to be very adept in AI. So
I'm
just a
writing that
good one.
down.
Um, that's usually a great starting point.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I can tell you that sure we have people that say, "Oh, just DM me on whatever platform," and you will never hear from them again. I reached out to Ryan cold. He didn't know who I was, and he got back to me. So, and I can see from the posts and the engagements that he's getting with his content that people are like, there's a community being built from that content on LinkedIn, and all it takes is for you to go and start reading some of Ryan's stuff, follow it. If you want to try this out, if you want to learn more about, being your own boss, starting that coaching business, uh, there's a lot of folks out there, but Ryan's path is probably a lot. There's probably a lot more similarities with the way that he arrived here than maybe some of these uh, coaching guru types, right? So I would encourage you to learn it from the person who's still in the trenches, still enthused by the effort, and is applying, constantly testing and learning. How can I use this tool? How can I refine this process? And it sounds like from everything that we've heard from Ryan today that that's the case. Ryan, I signed up for your newsletter today. Um, you want to send people, maybe is that a good place for them to go and start to get some of your content as well?
Oh, definitely. I'm sharing insights there from what I've done to build a 50K month coaching business. So I think that's a great starting point. You can always unsubscribe if I don't fit your bill, but that's a wonderful
Yeah.
starting point. And I would encourage people to message me on LinkedIn as well. That's kind of my CRM of sorts, my heads up display there. So I'm always
Nice.
on there building relationships. And like you said, it led to this here, and I'm sure we'll be in contact for many other things. I'm sure at some point in our lives we'll be on a
100%.
panel together at some industry event speaking about something and
Yeah.
reminiscing about, remember that one time we did that podcast? So
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
I reached out cold. So a lot of lessons here for the listeners, and we'll be adding any links that we talked about, including the link to Ryan's social profiles, in the show notes. But I think that a takeaway that you should certainly ponder is you possess knowledge that you take for granted. However, somebody else who is earlier in their career in the same profession, or hasn't had, as many reps as you've had at this, those individuals value the information that you're taking for granted. And there is an opportunity for you to, especially leverage. Look, uh, I would cautiously advise somebody to go out on their own as an entrepreneur if they've never done it before, because there is, the school of hard knocks exists in entrepreneur land. However, using technology the way that Ryan has talked about will certainly soften the transition of you going from the 9 to 5 corporate or manager or whatever into the place where there are no rules except the rules that you set. AI can certainly allow you to get farther faster. So, with that, Ryan, thank you so much again, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know that there's a lot of demand for your time. You've got a huge audience, and for you to come and share with us on the Using AI at Work podcast was fantastic. Any comments in closing?
Yeah, I just want to really double down on what you said. You really can monetize the knowledge in your head. And I'm going to give a bit of an
Yes.
anecdote, but it's a real example. There's an individual who's a friend of mine. She just got her master's degree, but she's still in her 20s. Just had a 100K launch. She did it all off the power of building a personal brand and
Wow.
leaning into being a cohort driver herself, teaching people online business tactics. And she knows what she's talking about. She's powerful. She's strong at that, full of knowledge. And it's because she just applied the time. So imagine you then, if you're mid 30s or even your 40s, I'm 40, and it's been almost a year since I made the jump out of corporate world, and I'm thriving and doing well. And you can do the same thing. You just need to learn how to do it. That's it.
Yep.
And the more you start taking action, the more that ambiguity starts to fall off your back, like the way raindrops fall off duck feathers, just really fast. So get to it and you'll see.
I love it. I love that perspective. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to Using AI at Work. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations about how to use AI at work. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Chief AI Officer, for empowering businesses with AI education and training. Visit their website for a free AI readiness assessment and AI strategy guide to help you get started using AI at work. That's www.chiefaiofficer.com. Special thanks to our producer, Evan DeSaulnier, for making this episode possible. Follow us on Twitter at the handle Using AI at Work, and visit www.usingaiatwork.com for free resources to help you harness AI in your role.